Good morning to you, welcome along. This is Monday morning, and what a Monday morning it is after one of the big weekends of Irish sport. Kerry are through to play Dublin in the All Ireland football final. It'll be their bid to try and stop the first five in a row in, proper Gaelic football, as opposed to the under-20s Gaelic football, or the minor Gaelic football that
Get it right.
was talking about. Owen, how are you?
Good, how are you?
You're in combative form this morning, Owen.
Like this day last week, when you were talking about this going to be the best weekend of Gaelic football ever, do you think that you over-exaggerated it a little bit?
No, I said since 2010.
Since 2010?
Yeah.
And did it live up to your expectations?
It was pretty good. It was fairly sensational. The Saturday was like, we witnessed greatness. Sunday game was a bit drab.
Yeah,
like
32,000 people in a stadium for an All-Ireland semi-final is bad.
Yeah.
Very bad.
You said the Kerry fans are going to travel. They obviously didn't.
Was there more Kerry or Tyrone fans there?
I mean, did the Kerry fans travel in great numbers? No, they didn't.
Not amazing numbers.
What a battery there, Owen.
Yeah, there was still probably a better showing for them than Tyrone fans, to be honest.
Okay, so what about Tyrone, Grant? Why didn't everybody show up? What do you think?
It's quite expensive to go to All-Ireland semi-finals, I think, 50 quid a ticket. Kieran Cunningham made the point on Twitter yesterday that we thought that the ticket prices sag at the start of the year, which is going to be like a one-week thing, but actually this is part of the knock-on impact for that. It would have probably tipped 40,000.
But there was 82,000 the game the day before. And
Mayo, that's because Mayo people are insane, and they're the best supporters that have ever graced Irish sport in terms of their dedication to their team, and also because it's Dublin as well. That makes a huge difference. Also because of the fact that there is a belief that what you're watching in front of you is the two teams who could potentially win the All-Ireland. Now that comes from the insanity of the Mayo fans as well, in hindsight, that they actually believe that. But perhaps there is a situation on Sunday where Tyrone fans don't actually believe they're going to win the All-Ireland, and maybe even something similar from the Kerry fans. Who knows? Right,
so that's probably more like it than... Because it is an All-Ireland semi-final. Granted, what was the price increase from what to what? How much did it go up?
I don't know. I get in on season tickets, so I don't pay the actual full price, but it's obviously up to €50 now. Was it 40, 45 last year? I'm not sure. It was the €5 increase was the thing, wasn't it? So, granted, not a big leap, but it's still...
it's part of it, right? But I think actually far more part of it is the fact that no one believes they're going to win.
I think it's, two-pronged thought. To be honest with you, a typical Kerry man, I was sitting in the stadium kind of mourning the death of Gaelic football at half-time yesterday, saying this is terrible, this is awful, 33,000 people. The best thing that kind of happened was like a traditional cover of Faithless by Insomnia at half-time. I was like, that's the best thing we've seen all day. Yeah,
so this is from Irish 7 Summits, has some stats on Twitter saying these are the lowest football semi-final crowds in Croke Park. 2019, 34,000, 2018, 49, 2017, 53, and then are there other low ones? 2007, 38,
I presume away from 04 because he mentions Kerry at the bottom.
And 2004 is 35, so the only ones in their 30s. Well, there's no 7 in the 30s as well, which, 96 was the last time it was lower. Who was in it? Kerry Mayo in 96. Jeez, the Mayo fans didn't travel in 96.
Yeah, it's kind of like, that's a weird one, isn't it? You would have thought that they would, but...
maybe that was the start of it.
Probably.
Yeah, look, I think the empty stadium is a real issue.
Yeah, it's a massive issue.
The stadium full completely transforms the quality of the experience for everybody.
Yeah, you were there on Saturday night as well, I heard. It's an amazing thing with 82,000 people in the stadium when the parade is happening, when things are about to happen. And
it's class.
It's the fullness of the stadium.
Warm-ups are class.
Yeah, it's the fullness of the stadium, not just the 82,300 people in the stadium. So,
is there a possibility that fed into how bad Kerry were in the first half?
No, I think Kerry were bad in the first half because they played right into Tyrone's hands.
But they were pedestrian, they didn't...
Very pedestrian.
Yeah.
Sloppy.
It did feel a little bit like, well, this probably isn't an All-Ireland semi-final because there's nobody here.
Yeah, it really felt... It felt like when the league semi-finals used to be played in Croke Park, when there used to be league semi-finals. That's kind of what it felt like in Croke Park yesterday afternoon for the first half. But then to be fair, in the second half, when it comes to life, there is kind of like a raucous atmosphere, and as much as however many thousand Kerry fans travelled, however much noise they could possibly make was made at that point, especially after Stephen O'Brien's goal. I've only almost fainted at 2 GA games ever. The first time was when David Clifford scored that goal in Clonus last year, and the second was when Stephen O'Brien scored that goal yesterday.
You nearly fainted?
Nearly fainted.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, literally?
Yeah.
How come?
Because I went absolutely apeshit. So I was so unbelievably happy because of, as I say, the being down in the doldrums at half-time, thinking this is so bad. This is like kind of a no-show, and it doesn't even feel like an All-Ireland semi-final. At least if you're going to lose an All-Ireland semi-final, at least make it feel like it's a bit of an occasion. So from the lows of that to, hold on a minute, we're back in this.
When you think about how Kerry started the game against Mayo in Killarney with the fight in the throw-up, and then that whole first half, there was none of that, really.
Yeah.
None at all. No sense of like actually we can be involved in a fight here. Everything was kind of behind, and I don't know. And then, so what's the transformation down to?
Like on a tactical level, when we get into this with Anthony Moyles, I haven't watched the full game back, but it seemed to me that there was more direct running from Kerry, more powerful running from Kerry, rather than the ponderous short hand passing around the 45-metre line, which Tyrone loved to absorb. It's kind of, like, you kind of felt that, you know, when the game that we always talk about from a Dublin perspective, the 2017 semi-final against Tyrone, it was almost as if Kerry did yesterday what Tyrone were planning for Dublin to do in 2017, as in just kind of try and pass around the 45-metre line, don't actually have much powerful running. But like in the second half, when you have the likes of Jack Sherwood coming off the bench, it was brilliant, and then you also have the direct option of Tommy Walsh off the bench as well, who was also brilliant. Then you suddenly have a much better plan A and a very, very good plan B as well.
But it did feel like physically they were willing to put it up to Tyrone in the second half in a way that they were incapable of or had forgotten to do in the first half.
It really seemed that way. I just can't put my finger on why that was. Here's also like a really small thing as well. I'm always kind of terrified when Kerry come out first in the second half, because the team that always waits in the dressing room have something to do. Like, Kerry made 2 half-time substitutions yesterday, and they came out first. If I'm a manager who's making, or there's actually only 1 half-time substitution, if I'm ever making a change as a manager at half-time, I would make sure that my team is the second team coming out into the pitch, because you can be sure that in that 3-minute interval, there's somebody in Tyrone saying, right, okay, that's the switch, let's get into Mickey Hart and tell the boys you've got a couple of minutes there to actually make your plan as to what that is. Come out second and actually make the half-time change count.
There you go.
And catch them off guard. That's a small deal.
Turns out it wasn't important.
It turns out like not overly important in the end, but yeah, it was great. It was absolutely fantastic. I'm not going to lie, it was an absolutely brilliant feeling, and it does feel that is an achievement in itself, getting to an All-Ireland final this year, trying to move beyond the rest of the chasing pack a little bit. I think you can make an argument that perhaps they aren't definitively the second best team in the country, but I do think they'll give Dublin the best game possible.
If you don't have Kerry number 2 in your power rankings, when the power rankings are done this week, there will be war.
Oh, in my power rankings, of course they'll be number 2, no question about that. But I'm saying maybe my bias is coming through here. Maybe people can make an argument that they actually aren't the second best team. I think they are, and I think they will give the Dubs a game in the final.
I don't think there's any argument anymore for Mayo after what happened on Saturday. And certainly the most recent bit of evidence is that Tyrone haven't really progressed from last year.
Completely. Like, I know hindsight is everything here, and I didn't expect to be saying this last week, but Donegal would have been the better semi-final on Saturday night. Mayo fully deserved to be there after what they did to them in Castlebar, but I just think that perhaps Dublin had seen this one before. They knew exactly what to do when they were in that situation in the second half. And maybe if you, I don't know, maybe even the simple thing of Donegal's kick-out strategy being so effective, or somebody like Michael Murphy to put the team on the back, maybe that was the game for Michael Murphy to step up or something. It just felt that, God, all the hopes I had, they wouldn't have beaten them. They wouldn't have beaten them.
No, I don't think
I felt that we wouldn't have got the drubbing that we got. Now, the thing about it is, I've never seen as good a 12-minute performance as in Croke Park ever, as we witnessed in that third quarter from Dublin on Saturday. It was absolutely terrifying. There was always this prospect that something like this could happen to a Mayo or a Kerry against Dublin. Like, I know we were kind of in a disagreement as to whether or not they've actually done that to them before, but this is conclusively their most complete patch of a performance against one of the other 3 or 4 teams in and around there. So it was unbelievable. It's astonishing. They're not going to be, I don't think they'll be stopped in this year's All-Ireland final. Hopefully we get a game. They are a truly special team. There's no question about that.
It was such and it's been such a weird year where Dublin's start in games has not been great. All other games, the start hasn't been the big games, right? So the Meath played them really well for a half. Now, Mayo did the same, I think, and I don't think there's that much of a gap between. I think the gap from Meath to Mayo is a smaller gap than the gap from Mayo to Dublin.
Yeah.
At this stage. And everybody's like, oh, the Meath game doesn't really matter because they weren't really up for it. But actually, it's just how they play. It's like find a rhythm, find a stride, see what the opposition is doing, learn from that, and then okay, now we know everything that we need to know. And we're ready to go. That's what it felt like. It was surgical in its precision. And the other thing that happened was Fenton just decided, okay, sorry about that, lads. I wasn't at my very best in the first half. But now I realise I'm possibly the greatest footballer of all time, and certainly I'm the most dominant footballer of my generation, and I'm going to win this game. Immediately Colin was man of the match, and we were having a conversation about it, and somebody was like, I'm not sure about that. And I was like, oh, come on. He scores the 2 goals that absolutely win the game. But then I watched the game back, and actually, Fenton's performance is one of the greatest performances in that second half that I've ever seen. Like, he is a colossus.
I thought Niall Scully should have been man of the match.
I mean, Brian Howard had a case.
I thought it was cheap giving it to Conor Callaghan, and I completely see why, because ultimately you put the ball in the back of the net, you win the game for your team. but I felt Fenton and Scully and Howard, as you mentioned as well, that middle third is absolutely out of this world. We'll never see anything like it again. And I know you hate momentum. I know you hate this phrase momentum, but once Dublin have a sniff of momentum, however tenuous you may or nebulous you think that may be, like, it's game over for you. It's absolutely game over for you. There is nothing you can do to stop that train.
Well, you certainly need to do something to stop what's happening.
Maybe go down with an injury or something.
Several injuries, like was it one of the Kerry lads suddenly had a head injury yesterday at a hilarious point of the game, where like he'd got a belt in the stomach and one of his teammates comes over and kind of pushes him down and goes head injury. I'm like, come on.
I didn't see it. That was obviously caught on television. I didn't Kerry played the game in that second half. Weirdly, a mirror image of what Tyrone did in the first half. I'm not sure about you.
Good diving. There was a brilliant free one by Sean O'Shea. Was it Sean O'Shea who grabbed his Tyrone marker's arm, dived full length, pulled him over and won a free? And the Tyrone guy's like, he was pulling me.
Yeah, that was not a free. I'm not sure that he he definitely.
He literally pulls his arm.
Yeah, no, I saw. Like even there, we were saying to each other that was no free whatsoever. And I think the ref was actually making up for a decision at the other end.
I did think of you tweeting the other day about Tyrone diving and John Fogarty pointing out. You were saying it on the show, and John Fogarty went, "Hang on, Kerry pretty good at that as well." And it turned out they were excellent at it.
Yeah,
all the dark arts Kerry had on display.
Yeah, they are starting to get good in that respect. I still think that they are missing a little bit of that edge. I think they need to go to another level again if they have any prayer of being in a contest on September the 1st.
John Duggan, good morning to you.
Gerard, Owen, how are we?
Welcome.
Thank you.
A Dublin Kerry final to end the 5 in a row or to win the 5 in a row?
Well, it's very historic. In the 135 years of the association, the two aristocrats of the game. It's funny that Dublin didn't beat Kerry for 34 years in the championship, 77 to 2011, and since then it's been the other way around. They've had some great semi-finals, and now the prospect of a final to really whet the appetite for every neutral, and it'll be historic whichever way it goes.
Yeah, will it whet the appetite though? Because people are a little bit concerned about the fact that Dublin are so dominant at this stage that not even Kerry. I mean, that first half, at the end of that first half yesterday, you were like,
will Kerry fear Dublin?
Well, maybe they should, is the thing.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I mean, that I think that's such an important point, John, because I do, like, it's not something you can measure, but I do think there has been an element of fear with a lot of teams when they see Dublin come up against them. Is like Paul Ganey sitting down this morning and thinking about Paul Manny and thinking to himself, he's better than me? Is David Moran thinking about Brian Fenton saying, he's better than me? Is Paul Murphy saying, John Small, he's better than me? Not a chance. There is a kind of a deserved arrogance about this team that they can look at the best team I've ever seen play football and actually say on a man-to-man basis, we're as good as them. Perhaps Jack McCaffrey is the one thing that they actually can't replicate, or the edge in that full back line. And then, of course, you've got Stephen Cluxton. So I pretty much... Fenton's
head and shoulders the best midfielder in the country.
Is he head and shoulders better than David Moran?
He is, yeah.
Considerably better than David Moran.
He is.
I disagree. He's better than David Moran. He's better than David Moran. But to say that he's considerably better than David Moran, I think, is just not right.
Well, sure. I guess we'll get the opportunity in 3 weeks' time to see which of them dominates the game.
Well, okay. So, like, we can judge it on that one moment. And to be fair, that's where it should be judged. But the two best midfield performances we've seen this year were Brian Fenton last Saturday night and David Moran in Killarney up against Mayo. They were both against Mayo. They were against the same opposition. Kerry beat them by pretty much the same amount of points, I think. Both teams were at home. This is a fairly sort of fair level playing field, and I think to say that Brian Fenton is far better than David Moran is unfair.
Fenton's the reigning footballer of the year, so he's put that body of work together where he has been that dominant and that outstanding and better than every other footballer in the country over the last...
Never lost a championship match.
18 months, so...
But like the never losing a championship match really is irrelevant in this discussion.
David Moran's a great player, absolutely, he's a great player. But I think that actually... If you are going to go man for man between the two teams, then the Dubs are going to win. It'll be 10-5 or 12-3 at the end of that. If you're being kind of fairly straightforward about it.
I disagree. I think that if you're going man for man, especially, so I don't know how you would ever we will never know the answer to this question, but it's an interesting debate to have. If you have like a man on man, say you put I don't know, Philly McMahon up against David Clifford for one day, and then you do the same with the Kerry backs. The Dublin forward will get the Kerry back, the Kerry forward will get the Dublin back, and then maybe you'll have like an 8-7 win to Dublin, maybe a 9-6 win to Dublin. That is how close I think it is on a man to man. The problem is this team, and this is where the unbeaten thing comes into it, that solidifies their mentality so long without it getting beaten. 5 years since they got beaten by a team in the championship. It's an incredible run. They have this down to a T, and they don't do panic. That is where the gap is here. That is why there's a 5-point spread in this game, not because of the individual matchups.
Yeah, they've been close matches in the last few years, Dublin Kerry. Like, it was, 7 points in 13, I think it was. Then 3 points in the final 15, 2 points in 2016. So Kerry won't have any issues with their legs. but they can't play the way they played in the first half yesterday. Like Tyrone were far better, and if Tyrone had a killer instinct, which they don't, it could have been a completely different story. So that's how I'd worry for Kerry. It's going to be a traditional match. I can't see too much tactics in this. I can just see it being two teams going out and playing football, and I think that'll work actually in Dublin's favour, because Dublin just have that arsenal in the team. And if Jack McCarthy has a quiet game, as he did on Saturday, somebody else can step up, like Brian Fenton or like Paul Mannion, who I thought was excellent.
Kerry have won 37 All-Ireland titles and Dublin have 28. How long would it take Dublin to close the gap?
20 years, I think. Maybe even shorter. I suppose it is 9 All-Irelands. You've got to win half of them and hope Kerry don't win that many in the other half.
It's probably a quarter of a century, yes, probably a quarter of a century. But I know I'm a Dublin fan. It's a big deal. This is a big deal. This match, this 5-in-a-row game, and it really is like history, the hand of history.
Knocking around town on Saturday night, though, it felt like the Dubs fans were celebrating that was it, really. That once the team was going to perform at that level and find form in a big game, because that was the only thing that we hadn't seen them do. We hadn't seen them play a big game yet. And once you know they are going to find form playing a big game, it seemed like a lot of Dublin fans were like, well, that's it. Now that's it. That's fine. Nothing can stop us now, because we're going to find form in the All-Ireland final no matter who we're playing.
I know, injuries as well.
And we beat the pick of those two anyway.
Yeah. I don't have that utter cocksure attitude about it. I just want to see it done now, because I know Kilkenny in 2009 just got squeezed past Tip in a great match, and then the next year they faltered. But
their best player had a cruciate.
Yeah. So
their talisman, and then had to go off, and
then our corporate went bananas. So in a great way, scored a hat trick. So we're not seeing the trends. As somebody said to me, "Oh, Mayo will put it up to Dublin and be close." No, I said Dublin will beat them by 6 points, and they beat them by 10. So it just seems to me that logic would just suggest that Dublin are going to win comfortably by 6 or 7 points, and it's predictable. It's disappointing that it might be predictable, but the only thing about it is amateur sport, and there's always more of a chance in amateur sport than there is in professional sport. But
will the 5-in-a-row talk matter? I mean, it's going to reach it's 3 weeks of the same conversation. 5-in-a-row, 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 5-in-a-row. What can Jim Gavin or anybody do to stop that? Nothing.
No, but every time Dublin been tested in the last few years, they've come through. Every time they've been tested, against Mayo in 15, against Mayo in 16, against Mayo in 17, especially against Kerry in some of those semi-finals. Every time they've been tested, they've been able to find an answer, and I think they'll find the answer again. But these are amateur players, and it is surely human to expect it to seep into their minds in some way. And if it's a tight game, I mean, I remember even it was the Donegal game that Dublin actually did panic in the second half, but that is 5 years ago. So, look, I just hope we have a great game, and I just hope it is close.
No, you don't. You hope that Dublin win by 10 points.
Yeah, no. But, it's funny. Could this be the reverse of a decade on? Could this be the reverse of the Startle Irrigs game when it was Kerry by 17 points? Dublin have never really
17.
The last time Kerry beat Dublin in championship.
Really probably since the 77 semi-final, Dublin haven't really done Kerry in really hammer them. They pulled away in 2013, but it's never been. I suppose that's the only reason I have a little bit of caution, because Kerry have it in their DNA. They have it in their DNA that they don't fear anybody, and they're Kerry football, and they play football the great way, and the most successful team. But it would be interesting. It would be probably the culmination of Dublin's dominance if they did murder Kerry in the final.
All right, and that's a live possibility as things stand this morning.